your emergency?
I called a little bit ago. The deputy sheriff said I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Okay, what is
here now?
Okay, what is the address that you're calling from?
4937 Hope Spring Drive. We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl.
4937 what?
Hope Spring, HOPESPRING Drive, Orlando. My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her.
Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her a month ago that my daughter's been looking for. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. She just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Okay, what?
That, my friend, was a phone call that started the investigation that led to the trial of the century. Yet the question was never really answered how little Caylee really died. Well, we're going to discuss this on today's Charlie Crimebuster Crime Talk. What some people have called, well, the fastest minutes in podcasting. Well, hello and welcome to another Charlie Crimebuster special. This is part 2 of how little Caylee Anthony really died in 2008. Now, they searched for her for over 4 months. Over 2,000 people participated in the searching of the 101 square miles of Orlando, all for this little girl. And her body was found barely a quarter of a mile away from her home, there in the swampy woods. Next, they searched for how she died. And that one has yet really to be answered. We're going to be talking about that in just a minute, but first, let me welcome any new listeners and say thank you to those who faithfully listen every single week. We really appreciate the fact that you're listening. And to show our appreciation, well, we're going to send an appreciation gift. That's to all of those who respond to us with an email, giving us your own insight on how you think little Caylee died back in 2008 here in Central Florida. Now, you can email us at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. That's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. And anyone who emails us with either your own theory or your own opinion on the case, well as anybody who shares your thoughts about the podcast, well, we're going to send you an appreciation gift to you at no cost at all to you. You see, it's our way of saying thank you to those who respond to us between now and our next podcast. Now, this is podcast number 6 for the year of 2022, and those who contact us between the 6th and 7th podcasts, you're going to receive a free gift. That's us saying thank you for interacting with us. That email address again, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Now, the time space for the gift is between the published date of this one and our next podcast. Also, feel free to let us know your thoughts on our new project, PeacemakerNetwork.com. You can see that site as we're preparing it. We're putting new touches on it weekly. We'd love to have your comments. Now, last week, many of you actually responded on the new site. We appreciate your contacts by way of the helpline. Again, now a gift for the contact this week. Email us at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Now, our focus this week is on part 2 of the Caylee Anthony case and the way little Caylee Anthony died. You can catch up by listening to part 1 of your podcast platform that you use. Now, last week we reminded you of how this was a very high-profile case. In fact, over 41 million people viewed this on TV alone. That was in 2008. Can you imagine how many others have viewed the trial on court TV? Well, in my research, I went over the 6 weeks of trial, listened to all the witnesses that were called to the stand. Now, in my mind, I was attempting to see how the jury came to their own not guilty plea. Now, remember, the trial lasted 6 weeks. Over 500 pieces of evidence were submitted. Over 100 times people were on the witness stand, costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet get this, the jury took only 11 hours to say that the prosecution did not prove Caylee Anthony. The mother of little Caylee did not prove her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I want to tell you why I think the jury went the way that they did, and also tell you my own opinion on how little Caylee died back in 2008. We will review the different theories that came out in the trial. Now we're going to get to that in just a moment, but now it is time for what we call our Courageous Citizen of the Week story. Now, growing up, there may be nothing more scarier than when Grandma strikes fear of God in your eyes after getting in trouble. Well, needless to say, Grandmas can be the sweetest people on the planet. But my friend, they can also be a little feisty if they want to be. Especially after she's been at the grocery store for 4 hours trying to sort out which newspaper coupons are worth using. And, well, if somebody crosses her for that last pineapple cup on the fruit aisle, well, it's game over. And for this specific shoplifter in Canada, well, he crossed old Grandma on the wrong day. You see, there was this dude who was trying to walk out of the grocery store with a buggy full of just about any item you can imagine. That was until the guy recording confronted him about it. Sure enough, the shoplifter still continued to try to escape, but then he ran into a fierce grandma at the door. Now, the dude that recorded it on his phone, well, he gave us the rundown. He said, quote, "I was recording this alleged shoplifter attempt to walk out of a Walmart with a cart full of stuff, and this nice little old lady got in the way just as I grabbed his cart." Well, before anybody could react, well, Grandma, she decided she had had enough of the chronic shoplifting, and she unmasked the bandit in record time. Well, a tug of war for the cart full of items followed, and he ended up leaving it behind. Well, my friend, Granny, well, she don't play. She ripped the guy's mask off and everything, sent him back home empty-handed with his tail tucked between his legs. And so, our Courageous Citizen of the Week, well, it's this Granny, this Grandma, who decided that enough was enough, and she sent the shoplifter running. Now, while I do not encourage you to get involved with petty theft to the point of this Grandma, you see, who knows what kind of people you will be facing. Some of them will not hesitate to do harm to you. So it's best to leave it up to the officials. However, we can say for certain, this Granny had courage. Apparently had enough of the shoplifters who steal what is not theirs. Those shoplifting people, well, they drive up the cost for all of us. Well, this Granny, without thought to her own safety, well, she is indeed, my friend, our Courageous Citizen of the Week. Well, seriously, though, do not risk yourself unless it is a life or death situation and you have to. You see, better yet, to go home with your family safely. While we do acknowledge her courage, we will give you a lesson to learn at the same time. A shoplifter is not worth you losing your own life or being injured. Instead, just be a good witness. Let the law enforcement handle it. Hey, speaking of grandmothers, it was the call from a grandmother of little Caylee that alerted law enforcement to the fact that her own granddaughter, little Caylee Anthony, had been missing for over a month. You see, her daughter then lied to police, told them, along with her own family, she told them that Caylee had been taken by her nanny, Zenaida Gonzalez. Casey said that she did not report her missing for fear of Caylee's life and the safety of her own family. Well, investigators, they investigated and found out that Caylee was lying. She lied about a babysitter that never existed. She lied about working at Universal Studio. She had been fired some 2 years before. She lied about talking to her own daughter on July the 15th. You see, little Caylee had already been dead by then. You see, a meter reader had discovered her body in December of 2008, about 6 months after she had gone missing. So then along comes the trial of the century. And boy, it started off with a bang. First, the prosecution. Well, they told people and the jury in their opening statement that this mom who lied so easily to others, well, that she had used chloroform and duct tape to murder her own child, just so that she could party and have a life free from the care of her daughter. They told the jury the lies was just to cover up the crime, and that during the entire time that she danced and partied with her little girl, well, her little girl, yes, her little girl, was lying in a swamp, her body decomposing. You see, they even said that Caylee's mom, well, she drove her car around with the dead daughter decomposing in the trunk of her car. That was before depositing her in the swampy woods near her house. You see, it was a kind of opening that stunned those who were just following the case for the first time. But then the defense. The defense comes along and knocks our socks off with its own bombshell. You see, they say little Caylee was not murdered but died by accident, that she drowned in the family's swimming pool, and that Cindy's father, George, well, he found her in the pool, came running up to Casey, telling her she was a bad mother, that she would go to jail for not watching Caylee closely enough. Then he told her, according to the defense, to go on with her own life, that he would take care of it. And they pinned the cover-up, the hiding of the body, on George Anthony, Casey's father. And as far as the lies that she told, well, it wasn't because she was covering up a crime, but she lied as a life she had learned at home for covering up secrets. You see, a secret, my friend, that in open court accused George Anthony, her father, her own father, accused him of sex abuse and alleged that George had been sexually abusing his daughter, Caylee, for years. And her continued lying, well, according to the defense, it was just her way of covering up the pain from earlier sex abuse and led her to living a life of denial. So those two theories, the prosecution and the defense, let me ask you, which one do you believe? Well, we're going to share with you how each side bolstered their own theories and the evidence they showed to you in just a moment. But now it is time for our crazy crook story. You see, as our regular listeners know, we attempt to lighten the load of a crazy crook story. And this is really one crazy crook, or pair of crooks, I should say. You see, there is no doubt that this criminal, a guy by the name of Albert Bailey, well, he's one of the world's dumbest criminals. You see, this man and his partner, well, they planned to accomplish a mission that was for bank robbing. You see, in this case, it seems they didn't plan anything, or probably haven't done any stealing before. Well, they thought they would one-up the crazy crooks out there. You see, here comes the funniest moment. These two robbers, well, they called the bank, now get this, before they entered it. And they told them that they were coming to rob it. I mean, what could be funnier than this incident where all the bank's employees, they already knew the robber was on the way. And they did have enough time to call the cops. You see, this incident took place in Connecticut. And according to these thieves, well, they warned the bank. They warned the bank so the bank could get threatened and then could collect the money for these robbers in advance. You see, that way the robbers could spend less time at the bank. A step for efficiency, one could say. Well, what a sensible mind of these two talented robbers. They wanted to be professional, give the bank time to get the money together before they robbed the bank. So, well, after a few minutes, well, Bailey, he sent his partner into the bank with a note to tell them, yep, we're the same robbers who just called. Yep, we're the guys who called you ahead of time. Well, the police handled the situation. Bailey with his partner is among the dumbest world's criminals. Well, they got arrested, charged with first-degree robbery, and, well, 9 years in prison. Well, for you crazy crooks out there, let me return the favor. Let me give you some advance notice as well. If you rob banks, you will go to jail. If you do the crime, well, you will do the time. And that, my friend, is our crazy crook story of the week. maybe it just... And friend, it just might be our crazy crook story of the year. Now, our focus today is on the Caylee Anthony trial. First, what did the prosecution bring for evidence on the fact that Caylee had killed little Caylee? You see, they started out by proving that Caylee was lying. They brought her friends to the stand. They repeated her lies. They showed that little Caylee was no longer with Caylee. They then focus on the car that Caylee drove, saying that others had stated that the car smelled like a dead body had been in it. They even introduced for the very first time a machine that, according to its inventor, according to the inventor, it could take air samples and compute the smell of chemicals that are released from a dead body. They also brought George Anthony to the stand and had him share the last day he saw Caylee and Caylee leaving their home. You see, they were living with her parents, and of course, George Anthony, he denied ever sexually abusing Caylee. They also brought the medical examiner that viewed the remains, and that medical examiner reported that duct tape had been around the face. They brought a computer expert to say that Caylee had searched for chloroform on the computer, which backed the prosecution's theory that Caylee had used chloroform to put little Caylee to sleep and then used duct tape to smother her. You see, they also used that same smell machine to say that it picked up the smell of chloroform in the trunk, along with the decomposition chemicals. They also tied other things found at the scene of the dead body to the Anthony house: the duct tape, a laundry bag that the body had been found in, a blanket, Winnie the Pooh material, and other material in the Anthony home. Then comes the defense. Well, the defense, they bring witnesses to reveal that the Anthony home was a dysfunctional one, failing to even realize that their daughter was pregnant, had been pregnant for months, even though others in the family had noticed it way long before her parents. They had one of Caylee's friends say that, Caylee had mentioned that her father had abused her, but only by discipline is what he reported on the stand, and that her brother had sexually abused Caylee. That's her brother Will had sexually abused Caylee by fondling her breast. Again, setting the blame on the family for Caylee's lies. They had people say that she was a good mother. That were those who had seen Caylee interact with her daughter in public. You see, the defense then went around and attacked the science of the prosecution. They called it, quote unquote, junk science, especially the part about the new invention that could inventory the smell of certain smells and decomposition. They then brought their own experts, or even used people that the prosecution had used. They attacked the autopsy. They attacked that with one renowned odor expert, one who had actually been used in some of the high-profile cases of the nation, who tried to explain away the tape by saying, someone could have removed the body. Then they used the duct tape to attach the lower jaw. You see, the lower jaw will separate in decomposing bodies. So he says that someone could have taken that duct tape just to reattach the lower jaw to the skull. And he said that same tape that the prosecution said killed Caylee, it was just used to hold the jaw up there. Well, they also attacked the investigation of the Orange County Sheriff's Office, saying that they only focused on Caylee instead of investigating others. They used FBI analysts to refute some findings in an attempt to bring doubt to the investigation. Then, they were even able to use Caylee's own mom, having her say that it was her who searched for chloroform on the computer. She was actually searching for something else and mistakenly put chloroform in the computer. Well, the public opinion on the trial, as it went on, it was by far endorsing the prosecution's side. But of course, what the public was saying was actually hidden because the jury was sequestered. So how was it that the jury came to the conclusion of not guilty, saying that the prosecution did not prove their case beyond reasonable doubt? I'm going to tell you exactly why I think the jury ruled in the way that it did, as well as my own theory on how little Caylee died. I'm going to do that in just a moment. But first, let me remind you that we are going to be sending out, now get this, a free mystery gift to all those who interact with us this week. That is between this podcast and the publishing of our next podcast. Now, to get this free mystery gift, just email us at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts on the case and any thoughts about our new project. Any email received this week will get a free mystery prize to you at no cost to you. It'll be well worthwhile, I can assure you, valued at over $50, and any and all responding will get this prize. It's our way of saying thank you. Thank you to those who listen. And thanks to our sponsors, we can provide this, those who sponsor us behind the scenes. Now back to our main focus. You see, I believe the jury came to their conclusion not only because of Jose Baez's gifted oratory skills, and he did a good job, but because the investigation unfortunately did make mistakes in this case. You see, while people are not perfect, and while mistakes are made in just about every investigation, it is probably these mistakes that Jose Baez placed on the spotlight that led to doubt in the mind of some of the jurors on the case. First, you know that meter man who reported seeing what looked like a skull? Well, he had actually reported it that he had seen a skull in the same area several months before the body was found. And investigators, they did respond, but tragically they overlooked the body that was lying there. Now, for sure, the Orange County Sheriff's Office and investigators were receiving thousands of tips. They were overworked and understaffed to handle that. But still, if someone who works for the county says they saw what looked like a skull, you would think there would have been a more thorough search of the area, that should have been made. Even though that area had reportedly been searched before, you can't overlook bodies. That's proven easily. Just think about Brian Laundrie and how many days they searched the area where his body was found. You see, the Sheriff's Department and investigators, if they had given more diligence to this tip that came in August, well, maybe then better evidence would have been collected earlier that would have proven their case. Now next, while I believe that the jury did need to hear the science of the case, I also believe the prosecution spent too much time being technical and sparring with the defense. You see, it should have spent more time just repeating the evidence in terms that the jury could understand. Just as Jose Baez kept repeating his own theories over and over in ways that the jury could understand, well, the prosecution could have covered their own theme in a more understandable way. In short, they just plain old threw too much at the jury, too many witnesses, and not enough focus on the things that really mattered. You see, they spent more time trying to prove there was a dead body in the trunk of the car than they did proving how she was really killed. You see, the jury themselves, they stated that the prosecution did not prove how she was killed. That leads me to believe that there were those who thought Casey may have done it. They just could not say it because they did not know how she died. Then, my friend, the prosecution did the unthinkable. They lied to the jury. Oh, not on purpose, but nonetheless, they lied. You see, their computer experts stated that on a certain day, that chloroform, well, it had been searched for over 84 times. Then it found that there was a software glitch. That was what was revealed by the defense. The prosecution used that software they got it wrong. It really had only been searched for one time on that day, followed by a MySpace return 84 times. Well, as you can imagine, the defense pounced on this like a posting gone viral. Basically, they said to the jury, if you can't trust the prosecution with this evidence, how can you trust them with the rest of it? And speaking of computer forensics, well, they also missed the real smoking gun. The real smoking gun that came out later after the trial. They simply did not do a good job with computer forensics, and that probably cost them the case. Well, we're going to give you that information, that smoking gun, in just a moment, but first, here is my theory. I believe that Caylee Anthony murdered her own daughter. I, along with others, probably did not want to believe that a mother could do this, but it does happen too often in this world that we live in. First, let me say there is no evidence, none, zilch, that little Caylee drowned in the pool. I know there were innuendos, a pool lighter left up one time, a picture of little Caylee trying to open a door one time, but no real evidence that little Caylee drowned in the pool. It is a story, only a story, to try to make all of us feel better. That would not bring us to believe that we do not want to believe that a mother would murder her own little, pretty, precious daughter. Also, there was no evidence whatsoever that George ever abused Caylee sexually or any other way. And as far as Cindy being the one to search for chloroform on the computer, well, the job records, they proved that Cindy was at work, could not have done the search on the home computer as she testified, or rather I may say testified. However, there was indeed a search for chloroform on the computer, more than likely by Caylee. But you see, that was overlooked because of the error of reporting that it had been searched 84 times. But there was a search for chloroform and how to make chloroform on the computer. That was while Caylee was there. And there was, my friend, indeed a strong smell of chloroform in the trunk of the car, even over a month after it was there. You see, not just one, but several others. Those who have been acquainted with the smell of dead bodies reported the smell, including the most expert authority in the world, Dr. Voss, the same guy of the body farm there at the University of Tennessee, the renowned body farm. You see, my friend, I have my first-hand knowledge of watching this man work in my own state, as I was a law enforcement officer there in the state of Tennessee. And he is the best by far who is familiar with the smell of dead bodies. And that, my friend, is with or without the scientific machine. You see, there are also cadaver dogs. They were right far more times than wrong in the history of forensics, and they did target on the smell. You see, just like when you smell pot burning for the very first time, my friend, I can assure you, you never forget the smell of a dead body. Next, there was tape. There was tape placed over the face of young little Caylee. And as the medical examiner said, well, my friend, there is no good reason for anyone ever placing duct tape across the face of a little 2-year-old baby girl. And then there's the smoking gun that computer experts for the prosecution missed. You see, it was found, friend, after the trial. After the trial, it was proven that on the very last day that little Caylee was seen alive, there on the home computer, and may I add, while George and Cindy were at work, on the home computer, while George and Cindy was at work, and Caylee was found there by her phone records in the area of the home, well, there on the computer, there was a search made, now get this, for foolproof suffocation. Foolproof suffocation. And that site revealed that the best way to poison, then smother the individual, is the best way for foolproof suffocation. Did you get that? Poison, then smother. That search was made while George and Cindy were at work. And that search was followed by searches on MySpace. That was the one that Caylee often went to. A frequent search by Caylee. You see, here it is, my friend. She went to a site. She looked up foolproof suffocation. She read how you poison someone and then you smother them. You see, if this evidence had been submitted at trial, well, my friend, the outcome may have been different by the jury. You see, it proves to me, without a reasonable doubt in my mind, that Caylee Anthony used chloroform to put her daughter to sleep so that she would not suffer. Then she put her daughter to death with duct tape around the mouth and nose so that she would smother, just like the site revealed that she visited. She is, my friend, in my opinion and mine, guilty of murder, and she walked away from it. Now, whatever you believe, there's one thing for certain. There is far too much child abuse around us. Every day, precious children are abused. Jesus Christ himself said, for those who abuse, that, quote, it would be better for him if a great millstone were hung around his neck and he was thrown into the sea, unquote. So, my friend, if you know of a child that is being abused, well, it is time for you. If you see something, well, say something. Contact the Child Abuse Hotline. Call 1-800-962-2873 or 1-800-96-ABUSE. Or just go ahead and contact your local law enforcement. You see, law enforcement takes these calls very seriously. They will investigate your concerns in a confidential way. For you not to say something, well, it makes you a part of the problem. Again, that abuse hotline, 1-800-962-2873. 1-800-962-2873. My friend, we may not be able to end child abuse, but we may be able to end it for one more child. Do it today in memory of little Caylee. So until this time next time, this is Charlie Crimebuster reminding you, stay alert, stay safe. For the life you save, well, it may be your very own